Hello, hello, hello. Welcome one and all to another SMV Wiz challenge video. Boy, have I got something special for you guys. But this challenge on paper is relatively tame. I mean, after all I'm going to be doing is blading. You've seen me do it, you've seen others do it, and you've most likely done it yourself. The question is, how many blades can you equip? I don't mean how many usable blades can you equip, you know, like Stormblade, TC Stormblade, Pet Stormblade, Sharpened Stormblade, and then the whole plethora of other blades you can use, all in conjunction with each other. No, I don't care about any of that. I simply want to know, how many blades can you put on before the game says no? Will the game say no? There have been times where I've put more blades than I could count, so I'm doubting this could even affect the game, and who knows, maybe the game has a hard-coded limit to how many entities can be loaded at any given time. And yeah, I do believe blades, traps and shields all count as entities, considering you can see the outline and most importantly the vertices or corners of the object as they're being placed. This means the game engine will have to keep track of every single one that you place. I'm hoping that eventually, if we had enough vertices, the game will turn around and say, hello, what's happening here then? And crash, or maybe something else that's interesting. Or maybe KingsIsle have thought really far ahead and already implemented countermeasures to this. I doubt it though. Let's take a look at the setup then. We're starting off with the anime protagonist of this channel, Valda's Fairy Tail. My boy over here, well, just look at that beautiful starting hand. Nothing but triple blades. And some traps. The objective here is to put as many blades on as quick as possible. Turns out that these balance spells place 3 blades at a time, which happens to be 2 more than Stormblade and 1 more than Dark Pact, which recently got updated to put 2 blades. Whoa! Who just teleported? Oh, it's Braum from that one stream I did months ago, which ended with me saying, yeah, it looks like that's going to be it for me today. I'll see if I can play my own time. I don't know whether I can or can't. Yeah, I ain't touched him since. But it turns out Braum is better for this challenge than James is because his spell deck allows him to equip more of these blades, hence I have to reshuffle less. On the topic of reshuffle, it costs him 2 power pips and my character and James 4 pips because we don't get balanced power pips. Braum just seemed like the way to go. The screen you're seeing popping in and out of existence is the second instance of Wizard101 where I'm loading in as Braum. I'm so good at this YouTube thing after doing it for 2 years that I forgot to change my recording to record my entire screen rather than just Valdas's. So enjoy this crappy view of half of Braum's screen cutting off half of Valdas's game screen. Doesn't get any better for a while. For the next 20 minutes I simply kept blading with Valdas and Braum, which luckily for you guys I'm going to speed up and play some nice music. So you might be wondering, what's this third screen of Wizard101 that is once again not fully in view and also blocking half of Valdas's screen? This is a joke at this point. This is Wolf now joining in, and I'll explain why in a second. The first thing I need to explain is why Braum just game ended himself and then reloaded. Turns out this is more efficient than my initial strategy of raising up 2 power pips and then spending a turn to reshuffle. Instead he can game end, port back to Valdus, and voila, he has his entire deck back. I also had one more epiphany. This entire time, this godforsaken minion has been casting spells and wasting my valuable time with animations. Wolf's gonna deal with him. Wolf will also join in on this cacophony of sword dancing, but he'll be healing as well. Sacrifices must be made for the greater good of this challenge. So from here on out, I'll be juggling 3 characters. Valdus, he needs to be reshuffled every so often as he can't exit the game. Surely I don't need to explain why. Braum, who will be blading and sometimes reshuffling Valdus, and now Wolf as well, who will also be blading and sometimes healing / reshuffling. I kid you not, this goes on for another 50 minutes. Cue another montage. For 50 minutes I repeated this process. Whenever someone ran out of cards, exit the game, port back in. Whenever Valdus ran out of cards, reshuffle. Between that shit hitting me, belay. In a single turn I could put a maximum of 9 blades on, 3 from each character. Now that I was in the flow of things, this challenge was looking great. But then some cracks appeared. Not in the strategy, not in the challenge, in the game. Before I address them, I'm sure you're all dying to know, after 1 hour and 15 minutes of blading, how many blades had I actually managed to put on? The answer to that is 84 times Ice Blades, 38 times Pierce Blades, and 75 times Death Blades. And then we multiply that by 3. Altogether, we currently have 591 blades, all smushed in this little slaughterhouse. This is a nice guy's moist dream. So now that we know the game is rendering about 600 entities within this ring, let's talk about some things I've noticed. For starters, lag. The game is noticeably running at a reduced frame rate. I mean, look at this comparison between the beginning and now. I'm surprised the frame rate hasn't completely given out on me, but clearly if you're looking for that sweet 120 FPS, this is something you should avoid. Now, whilst this is interesting enough for me to mention it, it's not entirely surprising. After all, when a game is rendering that many blades in such a small area, you'd kinda expect it to lag. Here's something I wasn't expecting. Whenever you reload this area, the game actually has an interesting way of loading all these entities. I'm going to do my best to explain how I think it works. Essentially, my game client sends a message to the server saying,
"Hey, I want to join Valdus in that shit. Can you send me the info so I can sync up?"
"Sure, here you go." So now my client adds all the blades one by one to the list it's created, and as it's adding them, it also renders them. Here's something I've learned. If you join during the animation sequence, the game has no issue loading all 600 blades one by one. And you can actually watch it doing this, and truth be told, it's kinda therapeutic to watch. However, if you port during the selection phase, the game freezes. It's still loading them one by one in the background, but rather than letting you play whilst it loads, like the animation phase, it just freezes instead. My best guess as to why this happens is because Wiz doesn't want you placing more blades, because then you could end up placing a new blade in the middle of this incomplete list that's been created. And now when the list is done, you'll have a list with some blades in the wrong spot as compared to the server. And now you have a sync issue. Are there better ways to do this? For sure. But hey, this game is 15 years old, so I can kinda accept this. Here's where things get really interesting though. If you have enough blades, say 600, you can port during the beginning of the animation phase. By the end of everyone taking their turn, the game will enter the selection phase. Meanwhile, you're still loading blades. What do you think happens next? Yep, it freezes. Fortunately, the game is able to load and you can still take your turn, it just requires a full minute or two worth of patience. One final thing before we move on. Whenever a blade is placed, you have this little particle animation at the end. This is that same animation, multiplied by 600. Alrighty, now that all the important stuff is out of the way, let's talk about this challenge, because honestly we still have another hour's worth of footage to go through. No joke, I spent a total of 2.5 hours just blading. This means another montage is due soon, but I have some good news. Whenever I do a long recording like this, every hour or so I restart the recording because it's easier for me to edit later on. What that means is I finally noticed and fixed my recording. So now you can see exactly what I was looking at. Since this is the final montage of this video, I'll put a little bit extra effort into it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that final montage, because I did put a lot more effort into it. Honestly though, anyone who's watched this far into this video, you deserve more effort. Ultimately, most of the stuff in the montage you've seen before, and I've already explained blading, reshuffling, healing, and exiting and rejoining the game. Not much was learned during this final stretch of the road. For the most part, I reached maximum efficiency. Before I summarize this challenge and ultimately end the video, there is one more thing I did learn during this 1 hour blading session. Originally, I would reshuffle, then the next turn I would exit the game. It turns out that in this current version of Wiz, you can use a spell and then let the animation sequence start. If you subsequently leave, your spell would still carry out. This works for reshuffling, and it also works for anything else as well, for example healing. But with all good things, there is the equivalent evil involved, and in this case, it's the fact that when you port back in, the blades now take so long to load that even if you join during the start of the animation sequence, it will cut into the selection phase, taking the full 30 seconds and then entering the second animation sequence. This challenge has been a real test of my patience, but I've learned a lot, and hopefully now so have you. Let's talk about some numbers now. After 2 hours and 15 minutes of blading, how many blades were actually in this ring of lag? We'll start with the smallest. 78 ice pierce blades, 78 storm pierce blades, and 78 fire pierce blades. a total of 234 pierce blades, more piercings than should be legal. We then more than double that number with 165 ice blades, 165 storm blades, and 165 fire blades, 495 blades, and not enough vampires. Exceeding expectations one last time, we got 171 death blades, 171 myth blades, and you guessed it, 171 life blades, 513. I don't even know what to say. We also got a few additional shields which I gave up on placing early on because Nightshade literally uses up every single one of them, but that's an additional 11 objects, and I placed on a few traps adding 9 more entities. You have to take my word for it, I counted each time I used the spell because I didn't hover over his name at any point. Our final tally for this challenge was 1,262 entities, 1,242 of which are crammed in this ring. The game is rendering 19,872 vertices in this ring alone. That's assuming they use a very small octagonal prism and then they slapped on a blade image. I'm honestly shocked to see the game still running. 3 instances of it. Well, 2. I closed one. So why did I end this challenge? If the game was still running, then surely I could have played more. Well, that's if the game was running properly. As the title says, the inevitable happened. The game broke. See, what happened was I ran out of cards with Braum. I repeated that same process we've all come to know and love, and when I put it back in, well, nothing happened. I thought maybe the game was just bugging, so I exited the game, rejoined and put it again. Still nothing. As the game finally broke, I thought, as my excitement rose, I calmed myself and said you have to make sure you're not doing this again, so I completely closed the game and relogged. Still nothing. We've done it, boys and girls. The game has given up before I did. Trust me, I came so close to giving up on this challenge. The fact that there's no cap means you can add as many blades as you want, and I sure as hell ain't trying to fill up all 32 gigabytes of my RAM. The game is absolutely broken. Throughout this challenge, there were loads of times I thought to myself,
wouldn't it be funny if I asked someone to port and watch them as they get stuck and then disappear because they thought their game crashed?
and then,
Wouldn't it be funny to ask someone to port and then watch them leave because they thought their game wasn't loading?
sadly I have no friends, so I couldn't do this. With 1,242 blades and a broken Wizard101, it was time to end this challenge. And I did it the only way I know how. The time has come. Do you have any last words?
After all this time I've spent in this battle, I have realized something. You are weak. I am strong. I am the strongest there is. You have no chance in defeating me.
I'm a level 130 and you're...
Then why am I still alive? You cannot believe that it is because of you that I am still alive.
I mean, if I wanted to, I could have ended you at the start of the battle.
Do you remember your last challenge? You died 5 times before me.
Are you telling me, just because the sky chose you 5 times, you think you can...
The sky has called to me. I am the chosen one. You cannot defeat me.
We'll see about that. Summon the sky. Are you sure you want to do this?
The sky will not listen.
Damn, man. If only I had some friends to port to the ring. Wait a second. If I can't bring them to the ring, I'll just bring the ring to them.